Welcome to Next Level Thinking, Episode 2, Addictions and Dopamine. I want to start with a short story. When I was younger, I was addicted to video games. I would play them for 8 hours or more every day. I would not talk to my family or anyone and avoid doing just about anything that wasn't related to video games. I know what it's like to suffer from an addiction, and I'm here to offer solutions to help you with that. So I will start with video game addiction, but this could also apply to many other addictions as well. Some of the most common ones, such as alcohol addiction or drug addiction. It should be noted that anything can be addictive. This doesn't have to just apply even the common addictions. This could be an addiction, like you may have a weird addiction to do a certain thing for many hours every day. You don't want to do it, but you feel like you must do it. It could also be like an OCD thing too. I also have OCD, so I know what it's like to be addicted to doing certain things that are also not common addictions as well, but I think OCD is a form of addiction in itself. I will start with video game addiction and my personal problems with it. So I'm actually doing a 90-day detox from Game Quitters. You can go check out their website. I would highly recommend it. I'm not a sponsor of anything to them, but I would just highly recommend you check them out if you're suffering from it. I have done well actually, and I've on my almost a month now. I think I'm 28 days in and I'm having no problems. My problem's a little different though. This is more addiction to certain games, not gaming itself. I only would play maybe 4 hours at most, and less even sometimes. So one of the ways that you can get off of gaming addiction, although this could apply to any addiction, is to replace it with something that you enjoy that is not related to what you're addicted about. So one way to stop gaming or being addicted to certain games, which is my issue, just being addicted to certain games, is doing this podcast and website. I enjoy doing them, and I feel like I need to do them actually as well as another thing. I really believe I need to do these podcasts and do the website. I might explain that later, but it's not really related to this topic. Maybe I'll explain next episode. When you have a great passion that is not related to your addiction and is the only thing you'll just about think about your entire waking moments, you will not think about your addiction. You won't have cravings for it. And I think it's really the best way to deal with any addiction or obsession that you don't want to have, which is pretty much what addiction is. There's two methods of you could wane yourself off, or you could do the cold turkey method, which is just stopping. If you had an issue with gaming or drugs and alcohol, those are just some, not all of them, of the kinds of addictions. Then you could reduce your time playing games or doing whatever drug or alcohol. So like if you play, say maybe 4 hours every day, then you play say 3 hours every day. Or you could do even slower in the Kaizen way, which is great for addiction, I believe. The philosophy to stop addictions or bad habits, which is, that's all addiction really is a bad habit. This episode could be called Bad Habits and Dopamine, because that's all addiction is, basically a bad habit. So, and it could also be used to form positive habits. Well, it doesn't have to be stopping. You can form new habits, and as a matter of fact, you need to form new habits in order to quit an addiction, because habits will keep you doing the addictive thing, and you need to form new habits as those habits become more predominant in your life. Other bad habits come less predominant because you're spending all your time and energy on the good habits. Anyways, as I was speaking about the Kaizen way, the philosophy of the Kaizen way is you make even very, very small changes in how much you do the addiction or ritual, is to just stop doing them as much in very small amounts. So let's say you play games for 4 hours every day. Play them for 3 hours and 59 minutes the next day. You don't even need to do it. You can still play for 3 hours and 59 minutes. And then say maybe the next week, 3 hours, 58 minutes. And then eventually you won't be playing games at all, but it'll be easy, because the issue is when you try to do cold turkey method, sometimes your body will go into a alert mode or a freak out, because it's too much change for the body to handle, and it freaks out, and it feels like I think it literally is what I read in the Kaizen book, the science behind it, is your body feels like it's being attacked. But that's a primal mechanism in our brain that is a bit outdated for the most part in the 21st century, but it is still part of our brain, and it is there for a good reason, because if you do get attacked, then it is important to have that part of your brain. But most of us are not in this constant state of survival, so it is a little maybe not as necessary. So you have to be able to control the primal aspects of your brain to be used positively instead of negatively. And for a moment I will talk about dopamine, which is actually one of the big topics in this episode. Dopamine is actually a good thing because it rewards you for doing certain behaviors, which encourage you to do those behaviors. So it's a good thing. it gets a bad rap because of the issues that people have in their personal lives with dopamine, with drugs and such. But anything can cause you to get dopamine. It could be things that are very specific to you as well. Like some people, they get dopamine from drugs, but others might be video games, or some others might be porn. It depends on each person. It could be many different things. And the way that dopamine works basically is your body wants to continue to do the thing that you keep doing, but each time you do it, it becomes a little bit less rewarding. If you say play video games for an hour, you'll be like, wow, this is really fun, but it's actually dopamine. And then an hour 30 minutes pass and you're just not feeling it as much. Or like alcohol, you might drink a beer and then you need 2 and then you'll need 3 next time. The amount that you need to get to feel the same high increases each time you continue to do the activity. The issue can be that it consumes your life. It slowly starts off, like it could literally start off with, say, 1 cigarette, and then now you've died because a couple of years later you developed lung cancer from smoking and then died. So that's how dangerous it can be if you don't carefully follow. Your small little actions can lead into larger actions in the future that could cause your demise. But it can also work the other way too. So you could use this philosophy to positively impact your life by making small good changes. And I would recommend doing this along with reducing your negative habits because it works well with each other. So you could start on, say, treadmill for just a minute a day, or even less, 30 seconds a day, and then go up to, in the next day you could do 2 minutes, or do whatever you feel comfortable with. If you just keep doing it, always keep doing it. If you go too far, like if you're going from 1 minute to 2 minutes and that's too much, go from 1 minute to 1 minute and 1 second even. Or don't even, just keep doing 1 minute and just increase it even slower. If your body stops feeling like it can't do the habit anymore because it's too much, you just decrease the amount that it increases each time of how much time you do it, or the intensity of the activity. And really almost everything you do, if you think about it for a moment, is a habit, such as, say, getting in your car and going to work is a habit. So it's a great habit. And then you have the habit of brushing your teeth, habit of doing the dishes. But basically almost everything you do is a habit. And if you want to do something, make it a habit. That's all there really is to it. Habits are everything for success in any field, whether it's health or finances or relationships. It doesn't matter. Habits also, another thing you should know is that sometimes you may not be aware of habits that are bad habits that you could be doing, or like triggers, things that could trigger you to do bad habits. So you have to be very careful when analyzing what causes you to do certain addictive things. A lot of times it'll be a trigger, which could be something completely not related to the addiction, and it will cause you to do the addictive behavior. This is because these triggers cause us to do things, because the triggers will get our body basically primed up, or our mind primed up to do these and follow through with certain actions. So say you might see on an TV commercial, you might see a video game, and then now you're on your computer or game console playing games. But it can also be some more subtle, very subtle even. Like you could see maybe a certain character from a game, or it could be a certain color even. It could be very strange things, and your body goes to think about those things. So if you can eliminate your life those triggers, or you could replace them, say if going on your phone and seeing the Facebook icon makes you want to get on Facebook. Well, what you could do is, when you see the Facebook icon, right after that, you could just scroll around your phone for like 3 seconds, or just do a certain tapping motion on your phone or somewhere near you, or do some random thing like jumping jacks or something, and replace that going on Facebook with those more positive activities, or at least not as harmful as, say, social media addiction, which is a very common addiction. You could replace those negative habits by replacing the triggers. Another great way is to join a community and talk about issues. If you ever heard of Alcohol Anonymous, that could be great for alcohol, but they also have one for different addictions. You can go online and find forums and stuff. For example, on Reddit, there is a subreddit, which is basically a forum for those to discuss to quit gaming, is r/stop gaming, which is a great subreddit for doing such, because if you talk to other people, you can help understand how others have tried to solve the issue of their addictions. And there's an Alcohol Anonymous for almost every addiction that you can think of. Or if you can't find one, you can also make one. That's another option. And The thing about addictions, why I think that they're really important for people to deal with, is because I think addictions hold a lot of people back. I think addiction holds a lot of people back to potentially aspiring to their greatest potential, because if their entire time is consumed by the addictive habits or bad habits, then they do not have time to make good habits and do what their truest potential is, to serve humanity in the way that they are designed to be. So that's what I'm really trying to help people with here, to solve their addictions, is not to just help them with their addiction, is to stop their addiction so they can produce more goodness in the world. Another thing I want to talk about, though maybe more for men than women, but it also, I've heard, could go both ways, is the idea of seminal retention or retaining from masturbation. This is something that I've looked into recently, and this is also an addiction for some, is either masturbation or watching porn. I think one way it can help improve your quality of life in many respects is by refraining from these activities, unless it is to create children, because there is an old philosophy, well, it's a philosophy in many cultures, that they believe that whenever you have an orgasm, basically you are releasing your energy that could be used for productive activities, and instead of using it for productive activities, you're just basically getting some pleasure, which is all it really is. That's all masturbation or sex really is, just for pleasure mostly. But really what it was designed for and is to create children. That is the biological reason, the scientific. It's not just some religious thing, and many religions teach it, of course. You'll see many parts of, say, Christianity will have teachings that you should only have sex if it's for creation of children. That's because, well, it may be for various reasons, but I believe the reason is to encourage people to only release their energy when it is to create children, because that energy is vital for everything else. It's what drives people. It's the number one drive of all, even above hunger in many cases. So if you're releasing that drive out freely, then you're not going to be using it for other uses. You should just consider that. And another issue with watching porn or masturbating is that it causes dopamine to go off in your brain, and then you need to do it more in order to get the same dopamine high. So it could also be formed into a bad habit. But even if it's not a bad habit, I still believe that the only time you should release your energy is when you're having sex for children, because that is the only productive thing that you could do with that well, is truly productive. Some people would consider the porn industry to be productive because it helps provide for their families, and that's a decent argument. I understand that people need to provide for their families, but for most this is not going to be the case, so they should just refrain from any sexual activity unless it's for procreation, because it is not helping you. It is not helping you in any way. It's just for pleasure, and pleasure is not going to get you very far. It's not going to motivate you in life, or it's not going to give you a fulfilling life. And just for a moment, just speaking about pleasure itself it's just good in the moment, but it really is not something that I believe that people should really focus their lives on, even at all. And there's two great videos, one by Academy of Ideas and the other is by It's a video by the School of Life, and it's a Jordan Peterson clip that explains the problem with pursuing pleasure. And they're amazing videos about why you shouldn't pursue pleasure, which is common. Pleasure is one of the motivating factors that causes people to become addicted to almost anything that's addictive. They receive pleasure from the dopamine that they get from those activities. Dopamine is always fleeting. At least dopamine that you get from doing these activities that are non-productive. They're always fleeting, and you always will need more. So you're never going to win with it, and you're never going to find a satisfying life, because it might initially feel like very satisfying, because you'll feel much pleasure, but then you'll go home and sleep at night and you'll be thinking about, well, what did I do today? I didn't really do anything. And it can be depressing, and many people feel depression and anxiety from following just pleasure. And on your deathbed, you don't want to think and look back at your life saying, all I did was pursue pleasure. And some people even believe in many religions that those who only pursue pleasure, they don't have a very fortunate afterlife. And I don't know if I believe in the afterlife or not. I think anyone telling you that they know for sure about what the afterlife is not really being honest. I think those who try to just pursue pleasure is not going to look good for them. They're going to be probably not in a good position. That's all I could really say. I don't really know for sure. The pleasure you'll get from doing what you were truly designed and put on this earth here to do will be far more pleasing than the addictive and bad habits that you were doing. It'll be far more enduring, and it will be far greater happiness than if you're just doing your bad habit. You will also see not just benefits to happiness overall, but you'll also receive benefits in the form of oftentimes financially. If you are doing what you're truly meant to do, you will also be receiving money for it. But that is not always the primary thing, but I know for many it is, and that's understandable because people need to be able to provide for themselves. You will also receive better relationships because you'll be connected with people who love to do what you love to do as well. You'll receive a peace of mind because you will not be going against what you were designed here on earth to do. That was Next Level Thinking, Addictions, and Dopamine. You can contact me at tinyurl.com/nextlevelthinking, Facebook, minds.com/nextlevelthinking. You can contact me for questions, comments, or if you want to be a guest on the show.